we were just on the cusp last Friday of learning of some possibilities. Some were confirmed, some weren't at that point in regards to the transfer portal. So run those down for us, if you would, Jason. They're coming from all directions.
They are. It was a significant weekend of visitors for Oklahoma. Oklahoma had somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 or 9 transfer portal visitors from the stretch of probably around Wednesday of last week through even Sunday this weekend. So Oklahoma has secured four commitments through the transfer portal. 3 of them are from the defensive back variety. So Kani Walker, Trey Morrison, and CJ Coldin. CJ Coldin is a cornerback from Wyoming, super senior guy, and they've got he's a guy that played a lot for Wyoming. Second team All Mountain West Conference last year, had somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 tackles. Really good player that Oklahoma's able to get. Trey Morrison, he's played a lot of different areas in the back end for North Carolina over the last few years. Played safety, played cornerback, played nickel. So a guy that's going to be beneficial in Oklahoma's back end as well. And then Kani Walker from Louisville. Really, he's a young kid, hasn't really played a lot. Last year was his freshman year, played sparingly, but was a guy that when he hit the portal was a guy that Venables and the defensive staff targeted pretty quickly right away as a guy that maybe not necessarily, he's not more of a plug and play guy like Morrison and Coldin is, but I think he's a guy that they feel that has the measurables and has the talent that might be even a little bit of a little bit better than some of the guys that Oklahoma has on staff there, or has in the defensive back room. So from an athletic perspective, and then finally one of the, and probably the biggest one I think for Oklahoma is Jeffrey Johnson, defensive lineman from Tulane. He was a guy that Oklahoma just jumped on as soon as he hit the portal, and it's really kind of interesting how the portal works out. I mean, Jeffrey Johnson even said Oklahoma wasn't a team that he was specifically even entertaining or looking at, but he had in the neighborhood of 25 to 30 offers within a couple of days of his name hitting the portal. So I think that's a really big get for Oklahoma, really from the defensive lineman perspective, is an area of not necessarily weakness, but of guys that have left the program, moving on to the NFL. When you talk about Nick Benito, when you talk about Perrion Winfrey, and in that area, Isaiah Thomas as well. So an area of need, and a guy that Oklahoma beat out LSU, Michigan, Georgia, and some folks as well for. So those are the 4 commitments that Oklahoma has been able to make, and they'll be in here for the spring here pretty soon.
Jeffrey Johnson, we'll start with him. He's played a ton of football, nose tackle for Tulane, 4 years as basically the starter, even as a freshman, with 11 games played and 29 tackles that year. He's racked up 135 tackles in his career, 44 last year, 5 tackles for loss last year, 15 in his career with 10 sacks. 2.5 of those came last season. Trey Morrison at North Carolina, and we know the deal at Carolina. Mack Brown coming in. It's a better program, better recruiting, but he predates Mack Brown, was signed under Larry Fedora. Mm-hmm. He, again, just like Jeffrey Johnson, played right out of the gate as a freshman. 11 games started as a freshman in 2018. He has racked up 44 games played at North Carolina, so a ton of experience there. He's typically been in the 40 tackle range. He had 47 last year, 2 tackles for loss, few sacks in his career, and he's intercepted a couple passes as well. And then CJ Coldin coming in from Wyoming, and Jason outlined some of his accolades in the Mountain West Conference. This past year, he had 67 tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss, and 1 sack. And he's played a lot of football, adding up the games, 25 games in his career, all 13 for the Cowboys of Wyoming last year. So a wealth of experience for these guys, and they've been extremely productive, those three particular players, and then again Walker coming in from Louisville.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Mark. And I think, like as I mentioned, Trey Morrison and CJ Coldin is a couple of guys that are going to be in the mix next year, specifically understanding that they have a lot of experience, to your point, Mark, and then also they an area that Oklahoma struggled, really struggled for the last couple of years in the secondary, and so I think those are guys that will have the opportunity to play immediately. At the very least, they'll be in the mix in that rotation and for competition as well.